Let's make 2020 the year you become a true Disney princess. Hey Sunshines, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. If you can take a second and go ahead and click that like and subscribe button, I would truly appreciate it. And let's get started. We all have stuff in our past to be embarrassed about. I do. I'm assuming you do. Everybody, there's stuff that we've done that can make us feel cringy or uncomfortable or downright ashamed. But I want to take you into the world of the Disney princess and show you that as bad as some of the things that you did seemed, there's a princess that covers it all. Have you ever had the experience of working so hard for somebody? Could be a family member, maybe it's not, maybe it's your job, and the more you give of your work, of yourself, the more they take, and kind of the less they value you. Well, you might just be a Cinderella. If you think about it, and I know that this was, the story is, you know, a tale as old as time, and the film was from a long time ago, and I think they were trying to kind of extol the virtue of selflessness and hard work. But the truth is, Cinderella was pretty much being treated as slave labor in her own home, and she really wasn't standing up for herself. She really wasn't trying to change her circumstances. She pretty much was just like, oh well, you know, one day my fairy godmother is going to come. And obviously that happens, and this story has a happy ending. But as far as I know, there are no fairy godmothers in the real world. And being this kind of Cinderella figure has been something that we as women especially have sort of been taught is the right way to do things. But it's really not. It's really pretty much an abusive relationship. And you can get stuck in there kind of and forget that you have value beyond your hard work for, you know, your family or for a business or family business or anything like that. And you are allowed to go ahead and stand up for yourself and make a change in your life. So maybe you're a little like Cinderella, you've been afraid up until now, but 2020 is the year you're going to go ahead and say, no, enough is enough. I am going to take a stand for me. I am my own fairy godmother. Have you ever gone and completely ignored solid advice? You were sure that your family was wrong about him and they just didn't understand, and they couldn't see what you could see, and you ignored all good advice and just went ahead with the relationship anyway. Sound familiar? Ariel? If you think about it, Ariel goes and literally sells her soul for the chance to see Eric on land. Now, I understand that it's framed as something that's super brave, and she goes and does this amazing thing. But if you look at it in the real world, there are definitely some ways she could have done that that weren't as risky and that wouldn't have caused such stress to her family and friends. I mean, the first big thing is talking to her father. Not whining, talking. It's something that, I mean, it really only works well if both sides do it. But if she had taken some time to try to understand his perspective and then tried to present her perspective less as the whiny teenager and more as a responsible young adult, because unfortunately they gave her age in the movie and that's just creepy. But if she had taken that time, then she wouldn't have had to risk her life, her soul, going to the Sea Witch. I know personally I've had that relationship where I was like, no, nobody understands the way I understand. And I know tons of people who have had pretty much the same relationship to varying degrees of it's not good. So if you were one of those ladies who maybe did go and have a relationship and you're beating yourself up and you're saying, why didn't I see it? It happens to so many of us because we want to believe the best in people. We want to believe that we can bring out the best in people. So it's time to take a step back. Maybe you're just a little bit of an Ariel. You made a mistake and you absolutely can move on from it. There is no shame in making a mistake, in not listening to good advice. It happens to all of us. Speaking of good advice, do you ever not listen to your own good advice? Like, you totally know that you should post that video, or you should write that article, or you know exactly what you should do to create your next online course or your next curriculum for your class, or that you need to go ahead and try to step up and, you know, become a shift manager or something like that. You know in your heart you can do it, it's right there, and then you don't do it. You ignore it, you talk yourself out of it, and you go and you do something else. Hello, Alice. So, Alice in Wonderland, I mean, she has like a whole song. She's talking about she gives herself the best advice and then she doesn't go through with it. I know in my life this has happened a bunch of times, and one of the biggest was actually at the beginning of last year, and I completely ignored something that I knew in my heart to be the truth, and I went ahead and it was a disaster. It was just a huge mistake. It cost me a lot of money and a lot of time. And frankly, my self-confidence was shaken over this because I knew that I had known not to do it and I ignored myself. So it was kind of a big deal for me. And I've talked to so many people who say, like, I knew I needed to do this, or I knew I needed to do that, and I just didn't do it because typically you're afraid. It's usually that simple. No one wants it to be that, but it's scary. Like, there's stuff that is new and challenging, and it's just a little scary to do. So you kind of avoid it. And that is something that I think we should all give up in 2020. If you know the right next step, I challenge you to take it. Okay, here's one for you political people out there. Have you ever been, and I know I have, so convinced that you're right and everybody else isn't. And you know the right thing, and you're going to ignore everybody around you, and it doesn't matter what they think. You're going to go ahead and do your thing, and why bother worrying about anybody else? Do you know who you are? You're kind of like Belle. If you think about it, she comes into town, she's new to town, and she's like, you know, she sings very sweetly, but she's basically saying this provincial town, this bunch of hicks, these, you know, redneck idiots that don't read, that don't know anything, they don't understand me, and, you know, I want this big life. Okay, maybe they are not the most well-read group of people, but she doesn't really take the time to try to get to know them on their level. She doesn't take the time to try to show herself on their level. Yeah, maybe they would have been totally jerks. Maybe there was no winning on this. But the way the film portrays it, the animated, she doesn't seem to even really try. So I think that's something that we all need to really think about, especially with an election coming up this year. It doesn't do anything to just yell at people that you know everything. You have to take the time to listen. Now, I get it. If people are saying things that are blatantly untrue and completely unwilling to listen to reason or reasoned arguments or anything else, then yeah, maybe you have to say, like, I'm done talking about this and move on. But I think it is our responsibility to try to not just ignore everyone who doesn't agree with us and everyone who doesn't believe the same things, but to take a moment and try and see things from their perspective. You never know, there might be more common ground than you think. Okay, here is one for all my ladies who fall in love too fast. Have you ever met somebody and even though you really don't know them very well, you kind of fall instantly in love with them? Maybe something's going on and some part of your life isn't working out the way you want, and being in love makes you feel good in a way that nothing else in your life is doing for you. Or maybe you just think you know the person, even though technically you really don't. So I think this one is pretty obvious, but hello, Anna. So nice to meet you. Yeah, she is the poster child for bad relationship jumping into. Basically, she knows nothing about Hans, and she goes ahead and like is ready to marry him off the bat. She came from a rough place. She was alone. Her parents were gone. Her sister didn't talk to her for years. So yeah, there's a ton of reasons that she did what she did and that you might have done what you did and gotten into a relationship way too fast with the wrong person. Again, nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a mistake. It's even a Disney princess mistake. You can totally get over this and move forward with your life. Nothing is irrevocable until you're dead, basically. You can do your best to change your situation. Sorry, I just got cut off there, so if I've moved or anything, that's what happened. Okay, look, this video is a bit tongue-in-cheek, and You know, I'm looking at the Disney princesses, obviously in a way that most people don't. They mostly focus on their adventures and what they look like and all of those kind of things. But if you really take the time to kind of study Disney, as I have, you notice that there are a lot of things that the Disney princesses do that, if you stretch it to a little more of a realistic view, we all do at times. We don't listen to good advice. We jump into relationships. We don't communicate. We just assume that people understand us or that they're never going to understand us. And we make mistakes based on our limited knowledge or our knowledge at the time. It's Disney princess normal, and it's totally human normal. I wanted to make this video to show you that even though the princesses come from some pretty messed up backgrounds, they got through it. And I know their stories, and often there is magic and mermaids and all sorts of stuff. But all these stories were based somewhere in the human condition. So if you're feeling like you're not worth it because you've made all these mistakes, or you've hurt people, or you're never going to find what you're looking for in life because it's too late for you, I want you to stop that right now. I call total BS. You, whoever you are, still have time to make a change in your life. Whether it's for the next minute or the next 100 years. It's your time to decide. You know, are you a Disney princess because you effed up in the past and you did all these crazy things? Or are you a Disney princess because even though all of this stuff happened and you did those crazy things, that you went ahead anyway and you got your happy ending? You went out there, you braved the wild world and made magic happen. I think it's the latter. And I think you can do it. Maybe you don't burst into song along the way, but 2020 is your year to go out there and become the confident, amazing, beautiful, smart, badass Disney princess you absolutely can be. And on that note, I have something that I want to just tease a little bit. I have a retreat planned for this spring, and it's going to be super limited. Just a couple of potential princesses, and I'm going to tell you more about it in the weeks to come. So keep a lookout for that. Once again, if you didn't before, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps me. It would also help me if you would check out my merch, my Patreon. It is really helpful for me to build my channel and to make money putting out content that I hope is going to help you have the absolute best life and experience out in the world that you can. I'm totally corny, I'm sorry. So, last thing, I just want to say thank you to my existing patrons. I would appreciate it if you would check it out. Check out Patreon. Check out my merch. It's on Society6 and Redbubble right now. And until I see you next time, I want you to live, laugh, and shine. Be the best you can be. Bye. Sunshine. Oh. Oh yeah.